Hi there.
Hey Terry, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. You have to excuse me if I'm slurring a bit. I've just come back from the dentist.
Oh no, nothing too serious, I hope. I hate the dentist.
Yeah, me too.
Mesmerized by your backgrounds. You've gone from the green text to some nice sweeping landscapes.
Yeah, I've gone for a full-on upgrade now, so I've got dynamically switchable backgrounds.
Wow. Hey Nicola.
Hey,
How are you?
looking forward to having some time off.
Feels like that's slow trudge to the end of the year.
Yeah. It's short week this week though. So I'm off as of Friday and then back in the new year.
Oh, awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I expect Friday's probably the last day I'm doing community meetings, and then it tends to get pretty quiet and lots of folks out or just non-meeting, which is nice.
Are we expecting anyone else? I'm just looking at the calendar entry and I don't know if anybody else.
No, not that I'm aware of. Maybe Kara and Tara, but not clear for today.
It looks like Tara has declined. So I guess I will just quickly mention that.
Yeah, I missed the update from last time.
Yeah. So stuff is in I have some initial stuff in GitHub now.
Oh, cool.
And what I've done. Let's see here. So I did try setting up with Netlify. So upside is that it's hooked up with the GitHub repo, and the idea is that if something then so the way it's supposed to work is if someone opens a PR, then it will if you are like a member of this account, then you'd be able to do a preview of your commit, and then once things are committed, it will then build it. So some nice auto deployment stuff, build and deploy.
Awesome.
It's because it's this model where a free tier is one account, the only user on it is me. So I think the model we'd have to work with, if this is the deployment route we go with, is that people could preview locally with Docker Compose, and then open the PR, and once it's submitted, then it could update this site, and we could map this to a proper domain if we wanted to. So that's sort of the easy route. The other route is to like actually set up our own build and deploy, which will take more effort.
Yeah, and the limitation of one user, which account
is
that
money,
on Netlify?
basically.
Is that
It's
Netlify?
basically, yeah, Netlify. So on netlify.com, they have pricing models. Basically, it looks like it's a per head thing. And so you would have a certain number of members who'd be able to like.
Okay. Yeah, we use that. Like we have the landscape asset, and that builds with Netlify. I think it's set up maybe on the CNCF's account, but I can figure out how we could get this maybe on the same account, and just we should be able to solve that and get past that.
Okay, cool. That
leave that
might
with
be
me.
just, that would probably be the easy thing to do. So.
And is it building off the repo it's building off? Is that the one under the CDF GitHub or one of your own? Yeah,
it's no. This is building off the CDF Best Practices repo. So I committed that first sort of skeleton set of source, the last time we met, I did that day, and Tara did a review of
Awesome.
the PR. So yeah, if we could get this set up with the same account, I can send you the instructions that I use to set this up with Netlify, so that the same kind of configuration can be used. And then, yeah, then we could work with it that way.
Okay, yeah, no, that's perfect. If you send that to me, I'll try and figure out how to make it so. I like that model that we just, like, it works really well for the landscape. People can do commits and they can get previews, and yeah, I think that's really helpful. And
Okay,
we need to be modeling some of those best practices, frankly. So let's get it done right.
So that was
hey, Justin.
That was my main update. If so, yeah, and once we get into the new year, I'm probably going to get busier, so I will certainly be able to help. You know, if you need some consultation, I can still come to the meetings, but I don't know how much time I'll be able to sink into this once we get into the new year.
Great. Sorry, I'm just poking around, and yes, apologies, I haven't really poked around on this. How did the rest of the discussion go, Terry? Like, I know we had talked about journeys and taking that perspective of making sure we don't make it exclusively engineering focused.
Yeah, so I think where we are right now is that we've got the basics in place for us to start building what we need. So if we can get us to the point where anyone who's an active contributor can start to move their stuff across, then we can iterate on getting the style of final product that we want.
Good.
Tracy, do you have instructions for how contributors to the landscape update the docs so that we could use a similar model? Because right now, the information on this sort of skeleton site is, preview locally with Docker. There's a sort of boilerplate for the Netlify instructions that I haven't updated. But if we have sort of process already, then it might be nice to copy that over here.
Yeah, I think the landscape does. What it's not explicit about is just who reviews it, because at one point it was a few key people on the TOC, and then they stopped maintaining it. So now it's pretty much Kara and a couple of other folks. But yeah, the steps are there. And what I'd recommend is we're just a bit more clear on who the folks are who, like, SIG Best Practices group. And I think that's a good excuse to get that all kind of tidied up. So shall I go take a look, and maybe I can put in a PR to make some recommendations for that?
Sure. Yeah.
And any other areas you think we should look at first and get in a good state?
Yeah, I think primarily that sort of contributor information on where to find the files and how to update using the Netlify process.
Yeah, we have a few. We've got some other guidelines as well in other parts of CDF. I'll try and pull together so it, yeah, it's useful. Great. And then maybe since we have Justin here, we're talking about the assessment side, because I know, Justin, you're pretty interested in doing some work, or you're actively looking at how teams can assess themselves. And did you have any thoughts you wanted to share, or tell us more of what you've been thinking through?
Yeah, so let me pull up my notes. So there are a few pieces that I'm trying to figure out. One is, like, we'll have some number of levels of how good we are at the thing we're trying to do. in this like maturity model that I'm hoping to come up with.
Mhm.
But we'll also need some different axes to evaluate on, like how you handle source code versus how you handle build deployment versus whatever else. And so I'm trying to come up with a list of axes that we'll do evaluation. And then my plan is to work through some of the capabilities that are listed in the Accelerate book and kind of plot those against those axes to kind of back test it. There's also the minimumcd.org project that is like, this is the bare minimum to get to qualify as CD, as for someone's definition of that, which seems pretty good to me.
Were you involved with that? I think I saw your name listed. Do you have any background of like what was the process?
Yeah, so it was a discussion over a few days as part of the DevOps Enterprise Summit that happened this past summer-ish time. And it was kind of spearheaded by Brian Finster, who I worked with at my last gig.
Okay, I don't know him. Yeah.
He's currently working with the US Air Force, helping them do deployment, like do CD stuff. And so I'm going to have a chat with him in the next couple of weeks, I think, to kind of get more of his thoughts on this as well. That's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Great. Yeah, let us know how we can help. And yeah, I've got some thoughts around capabilities and different ways of doing. So I might try doing a write-up of the ones we've thought through a bit, or I think are clearer than others. Some to me are more straightforward than others in terms of what people should be doing. And I guess the other question I was just going to throw out from the group, one of the things when I talk to folks about it always sort of comes back to the name and the whole idea of best practices. And I always seem to get different ranges of people. Okay, there's a certain school of people who are turned off by the idea of the term best practices itself. So they either want to call it good practices or emerging practices or something about there's no such thing as best. And so in this whole spirit of saying, you know, how could we brand it effectively, or what's a good way to make it distinct? I was just interested if anyone has any similar takes. I've heard anything around that of, are these really best practices, or yeah, how firmly do we want to stand behind that? No strong opinions.
I think this is a difficult one because obviously, you know, the biggest challenge that we face right now is that lots of people doing things that they're calling, you know, continuous delivery or DevOps or whatever, but they're not actually applying any of the methodologies. So, you know, we need to be mindful that we don't end up in a situation where we're used to justify people's misunderstandings of how to do this stuff, and then we get blamed for them doing it the way they wanted to and it not working.
Mm-hmm. So that could be like taking a specific lower level suggestion and saying we're doing this small bit when they fail to kind of do all the steps that come before. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Yeah, let me think about that. But yeah, the good thing is, Nicola, like I think we were looking for something to point people at, and this is really useful because up to now it's been pretty abstract, and I know there's folks who want to help or want to give feedback, but yeah, we just need to I think, yeah, let me do that work on the contribution guide, and then we can start pointing them at it. And I think we can, yeah, it will start to build and pick up some pace. Right. And I think that's all I had for today. Anything else anyone else wants to discuss?
I did a read through of that Google Doc and left a handful of comments. It's longer than I expected, and so I got through maybe the first third of it.
All right. Anything you want to highlight now? Should we look at those, or should we go take a look?
I think it can be asynchronous. I don't think there's anything. It was mostly like some wording changes, and then this wasn't clear, or this is the first time we've introduced this topic, so we should probably define what it means.
Perfect.
Like
Yeah, the Google Doc, I think, is very much a brain dump. So there's probably some amount of refinement that can happen in there.
So I guess we should get to a point where we can move a lot of the useful content from that doc into GitHub and then deprecate that doc. So then all comments start to happen on the website and we get some consistency. Yeah, as you say, like, it was a dump in terms of lots of different things evolved in different ways. So that might be another goal as well. Just get rid of that as any source of truth. But yeah, let's take a look at those comments. I'll go take a look as well. I haven't had a chance to yet.
If the content isn't going to go through a lot of change in terms of, points that are being made added to the doc, if you're interested in me taking a pass and maybe trying to like make it not so long, or maybe if it makes some things a little more clear, I can possibly do that if there isn't a rush to get it into GitHub.
Yeah, and so the stuff in GitHub, is any of that based on the doc at the moment, or
it's very much a skeleton. It's very much a skeleton. This is where you can dump stuff. I didn't want to try to break down anything because I wasn't sure what the state was in terms of the Google Doc, whether we were ready to move all of that over yet. As
My
is, or if we wanted to do like an editing pass on it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Terry.
I would suggest that we take what we've got and get it across into the new format so that it's under version control, and then start to iterate through it and refine it. Because when we start to split it up and move it into separate sections, we're going to want to restructure it as we do that. So having the content stay as it is at the moment doesn't really matter, because it's a big long linear document at the moment. But when we break it up into subsections, we may find it's actually too small and we need more content. Let's kind of stick a pin in what we've got in that document at the moment, and focus on getting across into the new structure. Because as we do that, we're going to find new challenges that change the information that we need in place.
Perfect. Yeah, so maybe what we can do, I'll take a stab as well at I'll take a look at that and what we need to get to a proper sort of minimum viable version, which maybe we can schedule an announcement around next year, and just give us a kind of a focus, like by this date, let's try and have all the automation in place, the contributor guide in place, a first set of the text in various sections, some basic assessment, and then so that's something a milestone we could work towards next year.
So I think the first key milestone is getting to the point where we can say to everyone in this team, okay, here's the working document. It's now available for you to start contributing to. Here's how you log into it. Here's how you add stuff. Here's the review process. So once we've got that milestone, then we can go back to where we were before, which was incrementally building on stuff and putting it in place.
Cool. Sounds good.
we don't want to create a lot of extra work for anybody right now by, having one person be responsible for trying to maintain this in the intermediate period before we've really set it up for proper collaboration.
And it sounds like just getting the account thing fixed so we can have more than one user previewing is a key part of that. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I think we're nearly there, but we probably just need, a clear announcement in the Slack channel saying, right, we're ready to go on this. It's safe to start contributing.
Yeah. Okay, let me go and try and figure out how we can move this across to one of the LF Netlify accounts. Great. Anything else? So otherwise, the next meeting in 2 weeks would be on the 27th of December. I will probably not be around. Should we keep that? Shall we go ahead and cancel it?
I won't be there either.
Okay, I will say let's cancel that, and not to say I won't look at stuff, but it'll be a bit unpredictable about when, so we'll stick to the Slack channel. Right, in that case, the next meeting next year will be, that's my calendar, 10th of January.
That's what it looks like. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, we'll see you in the Slack channel. And Nicola, you're there if we need to message you or ask any questions.
Oh yeah, I'm
yeah.
in the Slack. Yeah, just reach out if you need them.
And yeah, if there's any information you wanted to send through, yeah, let me know if you have my email. Otherwise, I'll start trying to chase that down.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, so 2 action items on me, one for Netlify and 2 for some of the guidelines and getting that in. Perfect. Great, happy to leave that there unless there's anything else. All right, thanks everybody. If we don't see you, have a good break.
And yeah.